Hello, and be welcome. In this video we shall be discussing something which is a bit different from our norm. It's not one of our stories or in-universe video like with a guide to boons or the laws of the damned, nor is it quite like our videos where we discuss things in many cases, aid in enhancing the story and atmosphere of your chronicles, such as music or art. Rather, this video comes from a poll we posted on our community tab, in which we asked you what you would like to see in our behind-the-scenes activities. As you can see, the majority of you voted for how we create our characters using our questionnaire. What's more, we have a special surprise for those of you who might be interested a bit later in the video. So if you're curious as to what that may be, stay tuned. Now, the questionnaire I use for character creation, I apply both to my players as well as to myself. That is to say, I use it when creating my own player characters, my NPCs, and when conducting a questionnaire for my players. So, with that being said, let's start from the beginning. What is a questionnaire? To put it simply, it's a list of questions and prompts to aid in making a fully fleshed out, almost real character. I will preface that I did not create this questionnaire. It's a time-honored tradition in some fashion or another of the world of darkness, though one that has somewhat fallen out of favor, most storytellers opting for short-written backstories, if any, or a few quick questions. As some of you may have guessed by now, I'm a bit old-fashioned. When I conduct a questionnaire, I set a time and a date with my player, sit down, and work out their character with them. Often I ask them only to come with a concept and rough backstory in mind, but more and more now, they come with more thought-out backstories and personalities for their characters. The process itself is extremely straightforward. I begin by asking them their character's name, then proceed to ask a series of questions regarding their character's mortal past. I do this in a very storybook fashion, having them walk me through their characters' lives to get them into their character's headspace and give deeper answers. I don't care for yeses or nos personally. So in what way did your father influence the man you would later become? Oh, well, it made him absolutely hate reading, but if he had to do it, he never wrinkled a page. On average, the questionnaire can take between 40 minutes to an hour, though some impressive few go for a couple of hours. Take Night, for example. The genius editor behind videos such as Where to Find Music and A Guide to Boons, whose most recent questionnaire took over 6 hours to complete, and the result was easily one of her best characters to date. Given that I'm old-fashioned, I believe that the storyteller should know and understand the player's character just as well as they do. In this way, they can better incorporate part of the character's past and tastes into how they write the chronicle or even set a scene. Knowing how to best set a scene that stands out to a given character, to know what scene or scenario will challenge a character's humanity, beliefs, and yes, even their loyalties. What's more, it helps me just know what their character wants to achieve, where it comes from, and what elements of their characters I can implement into the chronicle to enrich their experience. It can also be incredibly useful for long stories such as with Dark Ages, which will be played over multiple years. By knowing their characters, I can write NPCs which might be, or simply seem to be, the ideal childer, leaving it to them to explore and find out. I have also found that it helps the player get an initial feel and understanding for their character, helping shake off some of the first session jitters or clumsy first steps. Kinda helps get them straight out of the gate already knowing their character and jump straight into the role, be it a prelude or not. On another point, I don't do things the way I have seen some storytellers do lately. Before I ever start a chronicle, I have every NPC in my setting thought out. Woe be to my leaning tower of papers. But let's take New York, for example. You better believe that I'm writing every single kindred, ghoul, ally, contact, member of a given herd, or spattering of other possible characters from werewolves, kinfolks, gangbangers, mafiosos, politicians, cops, and the other random characters that you may bump into. Inevitably, I miss a few and have to write some later down the line, but with that, the help of the Troupe's questionnaires and some quick thinking, I can fill the gaps with relative ease. Now, when it comes to the player's sires, knowing the characters as well as the players is instrumental in knowing which immortal has their eyes on you and why. To that extent, knowing which of my NPCs would embrace the player also helps to determine the generation. This does away with the generation background as I put more stock into the characters and the setting themselves rather than the mechanics on the sheet. Sometimes my players decide what clan they want to be. In those instances, I respect their wishes and narrow down my search for sires. In other cases, my players leave it open for me to pick. In other words, they make their character, put it into the world, and see who bites. The questionnaire is divided into 2 parts, pre and post embrace. This allows them to go into who their character is, have a brief description as to how it was they met their sire and were given the embrace, and then how they adapted to a life since, and in turn, they get to ask me some questions. What is my sire like? How did he embrace me? How did he teach me about this? And all of this helps flesh out more of the character, and already begins to shape some of their initial views on life, her sire, her clan, and it lays a bit of the groundwork for the character's initial story. But seeing is believing, if nothing else. Seeing it firsthand may help you get a feel for how it goes. So, here in a moment, the questionnaire for Big's character, Facio Corvino, his character for our Dark Ages Chronicle, currently underway. We'll play. By far his most ambitious character to date. Now, before that, mind you, I have made a promise that I intend to keep, that I made earlier on into the video. Well, for those of you who were curious, here it is. When the World of Radish reaches 1,000 subscribers, we shall have our first subscribers-only one-shot chronicle. As a thank you for all of your support, some of you have asked in the past if we take new players, and we thought that this could be both a fun way to celebrate a milestone and also a way that we can interact with you and let you get in on the fun. Now, we have made a promise to one subscriber already that he would be the first to know if we did something like this, so his place is guaranteed if he is available. And to Billy Bob the 14th, who has been with us since our earliest videos, we would also extend this invitation. To those of you interested in playing in that one shot, or in a future one, the questionnaire is in the description, and the rest of the video will show you how it works in action. Thank you to all of our radishes, and to those of you who just tune in to get ideas for your own chronicles or characters, feel free to ask any questions you may have about the questionnaire, and feel free to use it in your own games.
So, Facio.
It's a Chester.
Tell me about who in his early life had an effect on the man he would later become.
For one, his father, a merchant. He wanted his firstborn son to be, well, the heir of his business, the heir of his, though a small one, his eventual trade empire. Man of ambition, but not enough foresight to see it through. He taught his son letters, numbers, how to make a good deal, the value of a florin. From a young age, Facio was sent to, given they are Venetian, sent to work on the ships as a rigging monkey or whatever they needed. Travel the seas, go to distant lands, pick up some language, pick up some currency, pick up experience and grow his character and his body, most of all his mind. And these voyages Of course, he wouldn't be part of a set crew. It's just kind of not how it ran. He was out as often as possible, and obviously a lot of the men would want to relax with the women in their lives. Be they in their lives for a while or not so much. But with all of these colourful strangers, he would pick up new language. Still Venetian, just more colourful than he's used to. He'd pick up games, he'd pick up different qualities of masculinity and manhood. Be they vices such as gambling or women, a good brawl, but also occasionally him being the innocent young lad sometimes talk to. Because, they're not going to talk to their mates about anything. They're on a ship, and when they're working, they need to be working, and when they're not, they're going to be gambling. But what's this kid going to tell anyone? So he'd learn just because, the disguise of innocence. Or the guise of innocence, I suppose. Not give any advice, obviously, but knows how to be a shoulder to lean on. Knows when to shut up, most importantly. And learnt how to get closer to people. Or at the very least learnt that he could.
So it made him overall more gregarious.
Yeah, more gregarious, more personable. It also, of course, made him stronger, made him grow, because of course it did. And so, the men he was working with, day in, day out, they played a large role in his character. Sure, he was smart, he was learned, but he was also growing to be wise and clever, witted, quick with his fingers, playing. One crewman sending him off to pick the pocket of another as a little prank. Others trying to teach him how to cheat at dice. See if he can get caught out by the others. He's the pet monkey when they have downtime. Sending him off to do tricks. But that all comes under the umbrella of experience when it comes to being gregarious in his life.
How did the relationship with his father progress as he got older and became this more well-rounded individual by the dint of the wealth of experience he was getting away from his family?
As he was becoming more worldly, seeing more of the places that they traded with, picking up some things, some rumors, and this time, a bit of language, some phrases, the general look of people, kind of the familiar grunts and head bobs and things of that nature. Seeing the state of the places that they sold to, the things that they were buying, the things they were selling, and coming back to his father, who had all of these intricately laid plans and these ideas of grandeur and, if I can buy from Paris and sell to Vienna, or take silks from Cairo and sell them in Sicily. He was seeing that his father was kind of an idiot. He knew how money worked, sure, his books were always well kept, but he didn't know how the world worked. He loved his father, truly, of course. He would not be who he is without him. But his father fancied himself a man who knew everything and knew how to get it. But he truly knew nothing because, he didn't really talk to people. He didn't know how the world works. He sees a map and draws lines between them and piles money on different cities, pushing them around with paddles and the like.
Would you say that as he became more worldly and more experienced, he began to see himself as his father's complete superior in the world of trade, love him or not? Regardless of familial bonds, I'm sorry, father, but you have no room to lecture for because I am your better. Maybe he never said that, but he felt it.
In fact, I think they may have very, very nearly come to blows on it. Maybe Facio just catching his tongue before him saying, I'm better than you. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe in a conversation of, his father asking him, you've just visited Jaffa. Do the people in Jaffa require silks? Do they require spices? And Facio looking at him, thinking, we buy them from there. These cities that you wish to sell to, there's a reason why I have to make my coin on ships and not in your caravans. A reason why I'm a deckhand and not a merchant.
Was it at this point that he decided, I'm going to do something of my own? Maybe he was aware of some petty conflict or an uprising that was happening and he saw the opportunity, wanted to show up his father? Or did this happen in another fashion? Did he choose to remain the devoted and loyal son, despite their arguments?
He was more loyal, though he did invite his father to go with him occasionally, and pestered his father enough and convinced his mother to help in his efforts to get his father to come with him travelling. Come with him on a boat. Sure, he'd introduce him to the crew before they set off. Right now, he's just a tourist. He's not going to be helping with anything. Hell, he'd probably get in the way. So, show him how we do things. Show him how we talk. Take him to the places. I'll be responsible for him. Don't worry. And just showing him the world of, showing him the mercantile world, because his father was definitely the prodigy, but completely unwitting.
So his father was most likely the way his father might have stayed afloat, especially if they were staying in money, was even if he wasn't the best in making valuable trades, maybe he was his skill laid in, you could almost say, accounting and counting coin and keeping the books. He could lend money to someone and keep things profitable. He could make good investments to the future.
The thing is, the reason they never really hit it big was because his father never gambled. He was incredibly risk-averse. That's part of the reason it took so much convincing and coercing to get him onto the ships. It was, but what if there's a storm? But what if the house gets robbed and your mother's left defenseless? Father, these things will not happen. If they did happen, this is something Facio would not say, but he would very much think, you'd be more of a hindrance than a help. Mother can handle herself better than you can.
Especially if you have enough money, you probably have one or two people guarding your house and your property.
And if nothing else, my friends will. Because I actually talk to people and I find out about their lives, you stupid man.
So, would you say that by dint of the crew, by dint of such, he made acquaintances with perhaps even ne'er-do-wells who, if nothing else by reputation, maybe the, Fazio! you know there's a toll for coming onto our docks, and he just pulls out a bottle and a pair of dice like, let's play for this toll. And they just became someone that they liked him enough that if someone were going to do something shifty to him, they would tell him and maybe for a little coin, turn the tables on the guy.
Exactly. Winning him over with a smile and a game.
Now I have 3 questions.
Please.
All positive.
Okay.
1. Did anything negative happen on the trip? Were they attacked by pirates? Were they attacked by a rival? Did a storm happen? Or, well, actually, first answer that one.
Yes. I was definitely thinking, not in the first voyage, things bad happening, but definitely later on, a storm, pirates attacking. I'm on the fence of about his father dying. I don't know. I think it would be better for the story if his father didn't die. But the perils of piracy, and he became so much aware of it, and he was terrified.
That brings up the question of, I'm more or less going with the 2 extremes.
Okay.
More or less. They're not really extremes. But did his father potentially, maybe just choose to keep things as they were, naturally, just kind of going with the middle of the road? Or with one extreme, seeing how traveled and worldly his son had become, that his son was a better merchant, where he was a better money man, how much the crew respected and deferred to him, how he carried himself. Believe that perhaps for the best of the family and the business, he would pass over the title, as it were, onto his son? Or did this make him envious and vengeful to his son, feeling as though, you've done all of this because you think low of me, you wish to replace me, and get potentially even into the old traditions of Italy, vendetta?
More in line with the second. It was less so his father being accusatory and envious and even borderline hostile with his son. It was more so, one of these days, there'd been some bad storms recently whilst they were on the water. And his father was shivering. He'd caught a cold, not used to the cold. And one night, Facio was working the deck, as, that's his job. And his father was huddled up in their quarters, trying to stay warm, eating some hot soup. And suddenly, the ship jerks to the side. The soup spills on him. And he yells out, futile man. And Facio looks over to the direction of the jerk of the ship. Pirates. Of course there are pirates. A fight.
Now, not to stop you, but a question would be, would his father maybe think that he had it out for him? Maybe the pirates were even hired by him to supposedly kill in his father's mind, kill his father so he could, usurp him?
No. His father was
that loopy, or rather insecure?
The pirates weren't so much the insecurity, it's more so his father, his father trusted, they trusted each other. They were very much father and son. There was very little of that envy of all of that. But with the story, they managed to fight off the pirates, fend themselves off. And his father, hearing all of the commotion, the screams of pain and anguish from the deck, comes out and sees Facio, sword in hand, blood smeared on his boots, some cuts and gashes, and thinks, "Oh God, is my son dead? Is this my son?" Because a very risk-averse man, someone who is not bloodied, or blooded even, doesn't fight, is a pen pusher, basically, sees the young man that his son has become, his prodigal son, his gift to the mercantile world, the worldly boy, the strong, independent, smart, clever boy, with friends in every corner, is covered in the blood of his enemies. Oh God. What have I done? If my son were to be the head of the family, would we be destined for more of this devilish bloodshed? And he sees the competence in Facio's movements, the tending to his crewmates, the bandaging, the cleaning, the collecting of the weapons. And Facio comes over to his father and almost over the last few months, maybe years, Facio seeing not the decline of his father, but the incline of himself, the improvement, the bettering of himself, eclipsing his father entirely, gives him one last chance to prove himself as a trader, and asks him, "Well, how much do you think we can sell these weapons for back in Venice?"
How did his father respond, or did he shout something the likes of, "No son of mine will be a merchant dealing in blood"?
Yeah, I think that's the kicker.
Because it brings it to a crossroad. If his father says that, just out of sheer spite, he might become said merchant of war just to prove his father wrong, or even in spite. Whereas his father could also just pull his robes tighter and just choose not to answer, either scurrying back inside or saying that, "Oh, now's not the time for this. Get inside and clean your wounds. Eat yourself a bowl."
More in line, well, kind of a middle line between the two. His father is stunned to silence. Some gentle prodding from Facio, because that's something he's picked up. Gently prodding men to give more of their secrets, more of themselves, to, generally alleviate the burdens and the taxes on their souls, but it helps with this kind of thing as well. And there's the outburst from his father, and Facio, now a master at biting his tongue with his father's deluded outbursts, looks to his fellow crewmen. There are enough men there still to split the crews, and he has the idea of father, and he commands, and just his presence commands him to look him in the eyes. "I will send the men to pilot the pirate's ship, and take you home. This is not a journey that you are ready to go along." And he stands firm on it, His father, I am your father, you shall not command me as... And Facio just looks at him and turns his head towards the ship and walks off to find the crew that can pilot it and finishes his journey going to wherever their destination was to sell the cargo. And the men keep the ship and sell it in his name. Because it was his plan, his idea, and his name will get the most profit.
And perhaps deciding the time has come for my own ambition.
I will achieve what my father was too scared to. I will be the man I was born to be. And I will be my own man. Not in spite of my father, but because of him. I was the risk he was not willing to take. I think the thing of the, there's a toll to board this ship, and the dice roll for it. That was the day, that fateful day. Just to make it thematic.
Would this be what turned Facio into a merchant of war, using his established knowledge and connections to become the Venetian war profiteer?
Not yet. He's not... He needs another nudge, I think. There's not enough darkness in him yet. Because, well, yes, war and death and all of that is common. It's the way of life. But he's not quite there, I don't think.
May I propose an idea?
Please.
Say, for instance, he managed to secure himself a trade, a large trade in grain. Maybe even some dried fruits, to a city that was soon suspecting to be under siege.
Oh, hang on. This is going to be pre-998, isn't it? Crusades.
Ooh.
No, I think the first crusade was in 1050. First crusade, 1096.
Yeah.
But yeah, other wars, because there are always wars.
Yeah, you better believe it. But yeah, go with the idea you had in mind with the Crusades. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, it would be selling to both sides. He'd notice that Christendom is gearing up for war with the Saracens. The armies are going to need food. Food isn't going to travel particularly well, and they're taking most of the men and horses from all the villages and towns they go through in Europe anyway, so they're going to need external food sources. Nutritious, high sugar, well, like sweet food sources. Dried fruit from the Levant. The Saracens need material, they're going to need arms, because, they're not suspecting this shit. He wouldn't tell them, because, well, that would be betrayal of Christ. But he'd sell them textiles, he'd sell them steel, he'd sell them stone. He'd sell them hay for horses and camels. He'd prepare both sides for war. Trying to save lives, really. And making a lot of money doing it. And I think that may be the spark. Seeing the coins in his hand, the real money that war can give. Trying to save the lives of the innocent.
In the first venture alone. He gets back home. He's there in his own study, counting and doing his books, and he realizes just how much money he made, not even after paying for the crew and expenses, just the volume of currency he made.
He can buy his father's estate 3 times over. Well, I mean, that's what it feels like, at least. Selling silk for surcoats to the French. Selling linen for shifts to the Saracens. Neither side know they're helping each other.
Like, after that, do you believe as he saw the money, he began to just repeat this with just general conflicts? Sell to them, sell to them, sell to them. Oh, the Holy Romans need this? I'll sell that to them. Oh, there's peasants that are going to try to rise up against their lord, and that principality over there. I'll supply both.
Absolutely, he would.
Now, admittedly, going with what I was saying earlier, and naturally, it doesn't have to be the case, but I thought it would be funny. Do you believe, especially like either like people would start saying, and he might even take it on as a bit of a mark of pride of calling him Piccolo Corvo, the little crow?
Yeah, definitely.
Facio Piccolo Corvo.
Yeah, it works for him. Definitely works for him.
What kind of person, before we hit the magnum opus, or do you want to hit the magnum opus first?
I think personality is more important.
Me too. What kind of person would you say Facio is? Was he a pious man? Was he a well-respected man? Was he a man who straddled the lines of anonymity? Respected by some, whispered about mysteriously by others. Was he feared? Was he just a genuine asshole?
He did try his best to just be seen as a really nice guy. At the very least, before the Il Piccolo Corvo. Oh, yeah, before the Corvo della Guerra thing came about. Or would that be post Magnum Opus, do you reckon?
Post Magnum Opus. Like, before then, he was the little crow, you know. Oh, I heard that he, sold to this bunch of peasants as well as to the city, rather than supporting the rightful sovereigns or princes. Or, oh, he's doing this. Or, oh, he's, little things. Oh, did you hear that he was giving this to pirates? And stuff like that. And then after that big
Pièce de résistance.
his big coup de grace, his piece de la résistance, he is
The Raven of War.
the Corvo de Guerra, the Crow of War. Growing fat on battlefields.
I'd say absolutely before the whole Il Piccolo Corvo moniker came about. He did try to just be a genuinely nice guy who people trusted to have his back if he ever slipped up, or curtail any assailants, find him crews for ventures once the Il Piccolo Corvo thing came about. Like, the allies and contacts that he had built up, not unwittingly, but certainly not to the degree that he had expected. As in, more people liked him and were willing to help him than he had really realized. But once he became Facio Il Piccolo Corvo, he was much more respected. There were a couple of rumors going about because, people like to talk. He wasn't feared. He wasn't particularly pious, though of course he did go to confession, he did go to mass. He did donate, because of course he did. He's Italian, he's Catholic, of course he did. But he wasn't didn't really celebrate the saints' days, didn't fast like a monk for Lent. He was, as pious as a commoner, because he is a commoner. The common man, rather. And he wasn't... Well, he didn't try to be feared. As the rumours start going around, especially with a nickname like the Little Crow, occasionally people would see him walk by, especially if he was having a bad day, had a bit of a dour expression on his face. People, like little kids, run back to their mothers saying, "Oh, I saw the Little Crow, he had beady eyes like one."
His eyes were black from war.
Yeah. Flitting about looking for the glint of steel in the sun.
Or blood in the soil.
Or fire on the water. So, rumours like that would go about, but he was well liked, not just respected by the ne'er-do-wells and whatnot, but he was well liked by just most people that knew him. And most people, the people he consorted around, he'd just say "Oh yeah, a ship from Marrakesh docks in Venice," and the Moroccan crew have no idea who the fuck anyone is. They'll maybe know the taverna, and he comes in well dressed, but not like nobility, because he's not gonna fucking wear a court undertunic at a dock. Goes into the taverna, nice clean clothes, and the men around, "Oh, Facio, come stai?" The Moroccans look around who the fuck is this guy? Maybe one of them being a bit, I guess, annoyed for the lack of attention that, "Oh, well, we're new here, we're foreigners, they should be, being better hosts than giving all their attention to this nobody. He's not dressed like a lord or anything." Goes and picks on us "Oh, who the hell are you?" Because, just a silly little jealousy thing. And then the entire fucking tavern backs him. Music stops, tankards are just, down on the tables. And Facio's "Whoa, hey, I didn't do anything." And just dissolves the situation. Hey.
Almost a case of he takes 2 drinks, hands one to the other guy, and says, "I think it would be better off we just all sit down."
Yeah, it's "Hey, I'm sorry if I've offended you," but he hands by his hands by the sides of his head, looking the guy in the eye, leans over to the table that he's standing next to, picks up his mate's drink, hands him the mug. "Hey, I don't know if I've offended you or anything, but maybe we can settle this over a game of dice," he says with a winning smile.
Then he really gives them a reason to not like him.
Yeah, but they don't realize it. Because he's played a lot of dice. And he's quick with his hands. He can palm a couple of dice. He'll still profit, because of course he's going to profit, but he'll profit just enough that it seems like the other guy was still winning. Mm-hmm. Keeping riding the high, and then it's "Oh yeah, fair enough, man, good game. That's the kind of reputation he'd want to garner. Because that's just kind of who he wants to be. He doesn't want to think about all the death he's causing, because, in his mind, he's keeping people... No. At the beginning, maybe it was a thing of, yeah, I'm keeping people alive and giving them like stuff to help them survive, giving them armor, giving them food, giving them materials and such. But like no, at this point, yeah, no, he's Il Piccolo Corvo. He makes money from death.
Oh yeah.
There's no bones.
He might even deliberately nudge or instigate some of these things just so he can make.
Yeah.
Whispering, I mean, those people are getting mighty shifty.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that, they're going to be buying this and they're already looking into that. You're going to need this. Next thing you know, he's saying them, they just bought all of this kinds of stuff from me, but I didn't give them the best things. They're afraid of you. You need to take advantage of that.
Hell, he'd even use his own reputation with people he's trading with. Like, hey, these guys? They came to me asking for help against you. I would never do that to you.
What kept him going from day to day?
Primarily money. It turned very quickly into, kind of since that day with his father on the ship, it became his goal to completely prove him wrong. I'm kind of backtracking on that, aren't I? But it was not prove him wrong, but more so, become who his father wanted him to be. Maybe to a degree, very much in his subconscious, it could have been a driving force of he needs to prove himself again to his father. Like, these are the consequences of your actions. I'm exactly who you wanted me to be, to grow up into. If that's a part of the character, it won't be very prominent. So I'm going to look for different things. I'd say definitely money lust. Absolutely, like the glint of gold in his eye it's a pretty sight. But it's also just really satisfying. Making those trades, having those transactions, it's the satisfaction, the art of a good deal. And obviously a good deal is one which you profit from. Naturally. That's probably... Like, if you were to ask him, that would be it, I think. It's just who he is.
You could almost say he lives to win against the odds.
He lives to toss the dice. Maybe that could be one of his quirks. Unless I'm skipping too far ahead in the questionnaire.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'll keep that on the back burner.
Tell me about his hobbies.
Storytelling. Just stories in general. He
like reading?
Reading, yes. Watching performances, hearing storytellers tell their stories, tell stories of his own. It's fanciful. There's no danger in a story because it's already happened. There's no, he lives his life. He is a living risk. His life, the way he lives, is riskier than most. Certainly riskier than his father's. But anyone can be run over by a horse. Anyone can trip over and break their skull on the cobbles. Anyone can drown in the sea. Live your life to the fullest. And the stories of these legends, of these made-up characters even, of these people who were created to entertain, they experience the risk, and you reap all the benefits. And but you still feel the tumult of their lives. You still feel the fear, the anxiety, the trepidation and euphoria at a storytelling ending. Even when there isn't one. He loves a good story. And telling them as well, he feels so much more connected to the people that listen to him. Like when he was a child, listening to the woes of the men in his crew. It's a very intimate connection. And even when you have a large crowd the size of a room, you feel connected to every single member of that audience. Because everyone is seeing what you're telling them, is smelling, is tasting, is hearing, is experiencing the world which you're creating for them. It's just a bit of fun. Spinning a tale, getting people wrapped up in it, getting yourself wrapped up in it as well. Kind of like a gambler's addiction. All you see is the tumbling pips. Talk for hours and hours and hours till the sun rises and sets in the evening. Your cup never dry.
Can I say something?
Please.
This character is becoming everything I thought he would be when you first told me about the concept.
Remembering how happy you were with the concept, I'm glad.
Well, let's see if it could... So, would he have kept in touch with his family as he began to have his rise to success?
Definitely his mother. His mother would love him as much as a mother loves his son. And he would always try to be a son to his father. But I think once Il Piccolo Corvo is truly born, his father just... Like, that's when the envy really hits. It goes from the, oh, no son of mine will make money from blood, to, you were meant to be my heir, not my rival. And Facio doesn't see it as that. He just sees his father as the man who made him who he is. And otherwise insignificant. So, just having that missing piece of the family hurts, and it only hurts. There's no pride in him having eclipsed his father. There's no... Yeah, it's purely negative, and he just misses his dad. But his mother loves him, and he loves his mother. He probably... Yeah, he'll... Let's say he has two younger sisters as well, just for completion. Yeah, loves his sisters, cares for his sisters.
Did his father try to keep him away from his sisters, maybe even spouting something along the lines of, I won't let you turn them against me? Making him have to sneak to see his mother when his father was busy or distracted, giving her the gifts for his sisters, or sneaking them money or something sweet or something from his trades abroad.
I think less so sneaking, for like fear of his wrath, but more so, I just don't want to cause problems. So yeah, tell me when he's gone. I'll come round and we'll have a do. But he'd never leave before his father gets back. It's more so like if his father did happen to get home while he's still there, he'd try to bring him into the conversation, to the celebration, but his father would probably huff and go elsewhere, probably like up to his room or into the kitchen or some such.
Spout something like, I don't talk to crows.
Yeah. And just, the mood dies and it's just like, well, now I don't feel like having fun. But yeah, making no secret of he's still a member of his family, no matter what his father says. Which would, I believe, end up with a good deal of contention between them as well. Like, Facio constantly trying to forgive his father, and obviously not seeing himself as needing of forgiveness. He's done nothing wrong. Well, no, he's done plenty wrong, but his father shouldn't see it like that. Yeah, Facio has a lot to confess to. he has caused the deaths of thousands of people.
Which I believe now leads us beautifully into his masterpiece. His disaster piece. His disaster. Anyway.
Disaster piece.
Yeah, it's devastating for the ones suffering. So, Croatia.
998.
How does he do it? Naturally, he has ties with people in those lands from his travel. He knows pirates. He's aware of the situation. He thinks, I see opportunity. The biggest one I've ever seen. Just as big as the turning point in my life when I saw that boat. It's the new boat, only this time it's a whole country.
A couple of years before the event, going to kind of the province that the pirates operate in, you know, showing his face, flashing the flashing the feathers of the crow, as it were, gets him in unharmed, strikes some deals with some local merchants. You know, they're in need of good steel, good, there's been trouble on the waters, and trouble on the coasts, and trouble in the cities, and, well, your crew need to defend themselves, of course. And, well, yes, the Croatians, the Zadari really do seem quite, frivolous with their money, don't you think? It's almost like they want to spend it. Or to throw it all away, or to other people. I hear their ships aren't particularly well defended either. So, making deals with these merchants to keep it legitimate, who then obviously sell to the pirates. Selling them weapons, selling them information on routes that the Zadari are taking over the years, or maybe a couple of months even, maybe a year, causing more and more trouble for the Zadaris, and going to Zadar, selling them some Venetian arms, going to minor nobles, merchant families, and not so much convincing them to request of their lord, or at least maybe like the mayor of the city or the guild masters, ask Venice for help. I am not enough to help you relieve yourself of these pirates. Although, yes, we are friends, of course we are friends. You must ask Venice for help. He gives them money, he gives them goods, and they ask his city a favour. He talks to the men. He's been working like this for years, in Venice especially. He's friends with I think... remember that family that he fucked over before?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going the other way with them. They're going to help him. They'll be friends of his. They're a minor merchant family, new to the area. Well, not so much new to the area, but new to Venice proper. nothing really got by him. So when their goods were stopped on a port, this is a little while beforehand, he'd made sure the issue went away. Their goods came through. Hell, he'd buy a lot of their goods off of them for higher prices, and then sell them for more profit elsewhere. But they didn't need to know about that.
But still, to get into their good graces.
So not him moving up in society, but he knew people. He got people to lobby the Doge to support Zadar. Yes, they're the rivals, but if Zadar are having trouble with these pirates, then we might have trouble with the pirates. So of course we have to help them. And maybe Facio could get the ear of the Doge. What do you think?
I think, if anything, they might go to him, but maybe the Doge's steward he might have been able to get the ear of.
Yeah, talking to the steward, saying, not covertly, but Zadar is weak enough to have trouble with pirates. If they are asking us for help, they are weak enough to succumb to us. And the Jewel of Croatia will owe us their fealty. Convince the Doge, and we can have Zadar. And Venice will be the capital of the world.
What was his reaction when he heard that Venice was going go help Zadar? That he has succeeded all the days and nights seeding the fertile soil with the merchants using them to get to the pirates in Zadar, in Venice, with the families, with the steward of the Doge.
It felt like this pressure in his chest, this buzzing in his head, the sweet on his tongue, that yearning for more was finally abated. He felt free. He had truly accomplished his life's goal. He had brought glory. Not well known, but known to him. Glory to his name. Money to Venice that was owed to him.
And profited largely.
Oh, yes. He would... a minor celebration at the taverna. Basically none of them really knew anything, because of course not. But he'd be in a more cheerful mood. They'd notice, they'd drink, they'd laugh, they'd party, there'd be some girls, but he wouldn't stay for too long. This is the best he's felt in years, maybe ever. So he thinks, well, I've just rolled doubles. Let's see if my luck continues. Maybe I can win my father back over. Goes home with a gift for his father. Rich, robes, pens, inks, beautiful inks and dyes and such. A strange calculating device from the Orient, an abacus they call it. Maps, charts. Lovely gifts for his father. Dresses for the women. And of course, wine. A lot of wine.
What would you say his regrets are?
I'd say the biggest one obviously has to be to a degree, yeah, his father is right. His wealth, his life is the product of blood money. Yes, the politicians, the doge, the kings, the lords, the thanes, the emirs, they make money through war. They wage war. They send young men off to die. They leave widows in their wake. But they do it to, well, they can convince themselves at least, that they do it for the glory and honour of their country, the betterment of their citizens. Such that if a boy grows up without a father, he'll know his father was a hero. But Facio, he sent men off to die. He started wars. He kept people alive long enough with the goods that he sold them so that they could kill just one more person before their demise. That is his life's regret. That he couldn't find a way to be anything different than he is. But that's who he is.
Does he have any other regrets?
They'd be surrounding his family, I'd think. Not really being a brother to his sisters. Being more so a cousin or an uncle. It felt like coming home with gifts. Not being there to console a broken heart. Not being, because he was either on the water or in the office. In the taverna, making friends, making deals. Couldn't help nurse a wound from falling. Couldn't catch the youngest from falling off her horse. He regrets not really being the older brother. Because he loves his sisters. Of course he loves his sisters. But he wasn't their brother. All of his life went in the ending of others. And he couldn't help start theirs. Also the thing of he's not found a wife. He's not had time for love. Maybe now, maybe he'll have some breathing room, but he knows you can't just lie low after a thing like this. You have to keep building. There'll be no time for love, for family. If you make time, it'll detract from my purpose. This is who I am. Without this, I'm lost. Am I supposed to find myself, a new self in the heart of some woman? I don't want to not so much maybe that's a big juxtaposition in his character. I don't want to risk everything I've built for that. That, I'd say, is probably a large... The father, like the Merchant of War thing, yes, but to a degree you can say, at the very least, to a degree, it's not a regret because he would do it again because that's who he is. That's how he sees himself. But to not take a risk on love, just to not take a risk, and to not be able to reconcile himself with that, that's a regret. Because he knows the payoff would be the greatest. Because, well, women complete men. Humanity is two halves of a whole. He knows he will never be whole because he cannot afford to take that final risk, that final leap, that final toss of the dice. And he's too far along now to change anything. That is a regret. In the
What are
truest
his
sense of the word.
flaws? What are his flaws as a person? How does he cope?
Well, evidently, the ends very much justify the means. He could completely go against his conscience. Well, that's how he has become Il Corvo della Guerra.
He's a busybody. Well, it's not so much a flaw. But he always has to be doing something. Like, his mind can never be stagnant. That's the biggest thing. He can't be in his own head, otherwise he just starts wallowing in his own conscience. I suppose that's less of a flaw, and that's more so how he deals with it, with the first one. But yeah, he cannot leave his own mind alone. That's part of, as he gets older, that's part of the solace he finds in stories, is the escapism. And I think not so much impatience, it's not impatience, it's not so much entitlement, but it's a voracity for getting what he wants, for his plans going to fruition. It's not like I've spent this much and you're not gonna do. It's more so, you will do what I want. Not because it'll be a waste of my efforts otherwise. No, you will do it. That's part of his drive to make amends with his father. Because his father was the one person, is the one person at this point, who refuses him. Which I think, actually, this kind of feels like a therapy session, but only for the character. It's... That may be more so as a flaw, his yearning for acceptance and companionship, because it stems from the I can never find love thoughts on his mind. It comes from the my father hates me. He has almost a need to be liked and accepted. Trade besides. He doesn't necessarily value these friendships, but it's the acquisition of them. He needs to be liked.
Quirks.
This is the quirk that I came up with earlier on. whenever he's about to have a meeting or about to send a ship off or anything like that, he always rolls dice. Always rolls a pair of dice, seeing how they'll land. If it's a good roll, like if it's like a double 6, shit. If it's double 1s, if it's snake eyes, that's incredible. Well, it's either incredible or catastrophic. It's more so a superstition than anything else. Actually, I will refine what the different roles mean later. But yeah, he genuinely might hold back a shipment for a day until he rolls well. That's a big superstition of his.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. This is your absolute best character so far, in my opinion.
Yes!
Like, he tramples every other character you've ever had. It's not even a contest. They're laying down and he's running over them with a bowl. Like, you have made a character in the same vein of, not of the same nature, but in the same vein of quality as Jasper Edmonds.
Holy shit, that's the best fucking compliment I think you could ever give me.
Yeah, because you like Jasper. Anyway, quirks.
I think he'll wear a brass wedding band. Not gold, not silver, but brass, because it doesn't corrode in seawater, on his right ring finger. Because it goes back to the whole thing of he'll never find love. It's kind of like, it's a symbol to himself, like, I'm married to my work. And it's on his right hand because, well, it's not his left hand. His left ring finger is sacred. Like, that is the holy sacrament as far as he's concerned. Marriage. And it's not going to happen, and he's not going to provide himself a crude imitation of it. But it's a reminder. These are the choices I've made. And this is the life I'm leading. And it's never... Maybe bronze instead. It's harder than brass. And I think just as corrosion repellent. Yeah, it's never going to fade.
And he's a little bit theatrical. He has a couple of things with like the crow motif. Maybe like some crow's wings engraved onto the inside of the ring in like a black inlay.
He has his own like personal dice, which are black with white pips, like crows. Just because like it's kind of caught on with him. And anyone who he's going to be playing dice with will know him as the crow.
Maybe instead of a one white dot, it has the carving of a crow.
No, 6. Because the 2 white dots would be the crow's eyes.
Fair.
And the 2 rows of 6 would be 2 wings on either side.
Yeah. Like, he just dips a little into that. Funnily enough, his favourite colour is not black, because he's not that fucking edgy. Ooh, maybe green. Green's quite nice. And it's not blue, it's not white, it's not brown, it's not red, it's not silver, it's none of the colours of his mortal life. Green is the colour of grass. It's the... Fuck, I think it's the colour of Venice. Let me double check that. No, Republic of Venice is red and gold, I believe. Yeah, red and gold. Yeah, it's the colour of nature that he can just escape with. Green is his favourite colour. He doesn't dress to reflect his wealth. He dresses well and in good material, but he's not, like, flashy. He's not vain. None of that. I don't know the fashions of the time. I know vaguely English fashions. Do you reckon they'd be pretty similar? Like, under tunic, braise, hose, that type of thing?
To a degree.
Yeah.
But there would be distinct differences.
Yeah, like going from the English perspective, because I know about that, like just translating over to Venetian Italian, like no like court under tunics with loads of embroidery, no like flashy, gaudy colours, because that was a very Norman thing at the very least. Like very, yeah, like understated. Good, like well-kept material, well-kept clothes. A little embroidery, because, you know, it's fun, it looks nice.
Italy's always had a taste for extravagant and expensive.
Yeah. Not the common man.
That's why I'm saying they like color. They really like color. Like, they find, like, bits and pieces of, especially of, like, old tapestry work, so forth, depicting those times, and it is bright, colorful as a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, they really liked to dress up by comparison to the English.
And the English were, in that period, fucking gaudy as shit. Like, colour clash was the fashion.
Somewhat similar in Italy. Granted, it was more of, like, certain colors held prominent. Red, gold, blue. Green was usually less popular. So in that case, it would have been a quirk because he would have stood out a little more.
Yeah. But yeah, he would obviously follow the fashion. But he liked green. Not on everything, but he particularly liked it.
All right. Well, would you like to finally know who your sire is?
Yeah.
Very obscure Italian name that I dug like a motherfucker to get. Romualdo.
Type it out for me, please.
Also known as Romualdo Lupino.
Lupino. The wolf.
I believe that would make it either the wolf or the little wolf, I forgot. Little wolf.
Fucking hell.
A Ventru of the 6th generation.
Okay.
Childer of Fabrizio Ulfila. Let me put it to you this way. You don't know who that is? But if you were to say to Yeet, hey, my grandsire is Fabrizio Ulfilia, he would have a heart attack. Because let me put it to you this way. That motherfucker can tell you about when Christianity was the new big thing in Rome.
Jesus Christ.
And he makes it to the modern day.
Oh, fuck.
There is a quote from Prince Calabros, formerly Prince pro tempore Calabros, that this is a motherfucker who is so deep and so influential within the church that every time he blinks, 1,000 souls are saved.
Jesus Christ alive.
But you are his grandchild, so no pressure. You have his Romualdo. How does Fazio react to the new hunger that comes with his unlife?
It's definitely an odd feeling. Feeding is a strange... Oh, the hunger is a strange sensation. It's... It's almost like he has... Well... Like he is now a character in one of those stories. He is pulled by something otherworldly. Tasked by the gods like Odysseus or Achilles. Or, just given an objective to fulfill rather than realizing his own ambitions, mortal ambitions. It's almost a sense of direction. Just
being hungry?
Being hungry with the knowledge that there is a specific thing that you just seek out and hunt for. In, various ways, but it's what comes with that hunger. It's the reason for it and the way to abate it.
Does he have any problems with that or reconciling with that, considering if he wasn't a merchant of blood before, he is now quite literally hunting and feeding from his fellow man.
His initial outcry would be... Wait, so I was embraced immediately. There was no ghouling whatsoever from...
No, you were ghouled, you just never knew it.
Oh, okay. I was ghouled over that month. Okay.
Like I said, he would meet fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And he just was discreetly keeping you as a ghoul.
And then, I was taught for a couple of days after Embrace. Or nights,
and
I
then
suppose.
you rose out from under the waves like a sea monster.
Yeah, so... His initial outcry to Romualdo would be, I have to do what? I have to drink the blood of men? Well, people? How would Romualdo, like, would he just say deal with it, basically?
No.
What would his response be to my immediate outcry?
For one, he would have a vessel prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, the vessel is just staring straight ahead with this 1,000-yard stare like he's already dead.
Dominated out of his mind.
Yeah. Lights are on, but no one's home.
Mm.
And Romualdo standing behind the man with one arm on his shoulder, just saying that as he will come to understand, their kind exists behind every mortal society. If you wish to achieve, if you wish to fulfill yourself, and perhaps if you wish to curtail the interests of those Cainites with whom you have quarreled, you will need to feed. You can consider it a tax for what you contribute to them. Just as with your trade you brought in wealth and occupation to many men's lives, as a Cainite, you will one day have a domain of your own. You will one day achieve for your own, and you will affect the lives of every mortal beneath you.
Need I kill them?
No. You need only enough to wet the tongue, to slake your hunger for a time. Most mortals find it very enjoyable. Some few even welcome, should they be aware.
And sort of rationalizing it, Facio's response would be, well, as long as I don't kill them, as long as I don't get their innocent blood on my hands, assuming they're innocent.
Romualdo would, at that point, just put a hand on his chest, saying, "It is inevitable that one day you will kill him when you attempt to slake your hunger. Be it from the beast, be it from rage, whatever the circumstance, you will eventually take the lives of man. That is inevitable. The thing which separates you from the beast is reason. Cast aside your concerns for the lives of men, and you may adapt one of the roads of enlightenment. However, if you preoccupy yourself, if you recognize them as the most important thing which shapes the world, then you will remember the value of men. And you will be less inclined to take where it is not needed. In other words, be pragmatic. You're going to do it. It's going to happen. Just don't do it in vain. Don't do it on a whim. Don't throw away valuable tools. Even in life, you've already killed men who have attempted to kill you. And in life, you have already caused the death of them after they had fulfilled their purpose. And sometimes those who just died as an effect. And yet these were necessary things, weren't they? You made the pragmatic decisions necessary for the benefit of your family, yourself, your people. In essence, he's effectively telling you, no, stay to the Via Humanitas. Because, I mean, look at what was said in the thing I had you read. Humanity and the mortal society is very important. We want to stay connected. Form. Yeah, you're going to have to accept, if not become accustomed to or apathetic to, that you will kill men. But it's something you've done before. He effectively just tries to show it in a pragmatic light, in a way that Facio can reconcile.
That he does. It makes sense, and it is necessary. That's a fair point. That definitely hits home. I mean, he'd already reconciled with himself when he was mortal. Although it plagues his conscience, him killing men, he would not change a thing. Being Il Corvo della Guerra. That is who he is. To change now, after your death, is dishonest to your life. Well, if you were to try to convince a poet of it, but... why would I change now when I now have the opportunity to be more myself than ever before?
Hell, Romualdo might even say that at least in this case, when you spill blood, it's not wasted. It goes to fuel your life. Just as the death of the cow is necessary for the peasant to eat. What habits, heirlooms, or other does Facio retain that help remind him not only of his mortal life, but his humanity?
I'd say most importantly, it was the ring that he has attempted to give his father. He had thought to, when it was thrown out of the home after him, that fateful night, leave it for his little sister to carry as an heirloom. But he reconsidered, thinking if his father found it, there would be unnecessary trouble, so he kept it for himself. Even if in his mind, even if his father did not want him, he was still a member of their family. And he was still a product of his father's ambitions. He holds himself in that regard. And that ring, that crest, which I'll design later. It's a symbol of that ambition, of Facio. To a degree, it is him. So he keeps that ring. Not wearing it, but he keeps it on a chain on a necklace next to the crucifix. Which he also wears, because he's still Catholic. A simple one. I mean, he also keeps those raven-eyed dice, crow-eyed dice. The black ones with the white pips. I wonder what they could be made of. Maybe bone, and just, he had them charred. Because wood would be, and porcelain would also be meh. And bone dice are pretty common. So yeah, some charred bone with the pip scraped out to be white. Keeps those. Just in a little pouch. Probably a pouch tied to a belt under his tunic, rather than on the primary belt. He doesn't don the the raveny paraphernalia, the crowy paraphernalia rather. I have raven in my head. Not so much. It's now with the advent of this new age, a century and a half later. A bit over a century later. The Crow of War isn't the Crow of War. It's just some eccentric stranger dressed in, just some guy that stands out in the crowd to no real effect. But the dice are who he is, and they are his, and they're a memory of, this is the person that I portrayed. This is the person I became. And they're nice dice. He still wears that bronze wedding band on his right finger. His right ring finger. Just markers of different periods in his life. It was also actions and quirks that he would carry on, right?
Oh yeah.
Excuse me.
Hell, I'm even trying to find out what happened to his sisters is in there.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Oh my god, yes. Find out what happened to his sisters. More innocent than that. Reading, going after stories and stuff as well. Talking to people, just getting to know people, and gambling. Definitely thinks he would still do, not just for ease of feeding, not just for gaining contacts and allies, but also, this is how he maintains his humanity.
In the modern nights, he'd be the prince attending some mobster's poker game. How does he reconcile his undead nature as a K-Knight with his religious?
Obviously, he was baptized Catholic, and with the baptism was the washing away of sins, washing away of the original sin that he was guilty of, because he is human, was human. And this curse of Cain that is now in his blood.
I'll also go over the old traditions of Cain in the days.
Yeah. But just going off of that, Facio's existence and beliefs on his own existence would come from a similar vein to just how he was kind of brought up in Catholicism. But whereas Adam, it's not stated whether or not he was actively trying to atone for his sins. in the stories of Cain told by the Ventru, and the stories of Ventru, Cain was actively attempting to atone for his sins. Well, yeah, by safeguarding humanity, by leading them, rather than subjugating and murdering them like he did his brother. It was a horrible thing, yes, but he was actively atoning for them.
He was their shepherd.
And so, yeah, it's this. Facio does not see himself as an evil, accursed creature. He sees himself as, the teachings of the Ventru are really rubbing off on him. It's like, I now have the power, the freedom, and the time to ensure the survival of my flock. Is this what it's like to be a patrician?
Leading neatly into our next question. How does Facio feel and think of his sire? Would he consider himself a loyal child, or would he consider himself indebted to his sire? Does he hold resentment? What is it? What's going on?
Well, he's certainly loyal to his sire. His sire was the one who brought him into this world. He is still his patron. And he's saved his life multiple times. He saved Facio from, looking back on it, a life of insignificance. He would have been hunted down eventually for all of the shit he was up to.
Not to mention, he can literally see 100 years later, and his name has faded into obscurity.
So his sire saved him from that fate. His sire also, actually saved his life after his embrace, allowing him to get away from destruction. And he owes him a third time for calling him to Bologna. Because without that direction, without that call, that summons, Facio would be lost in the streets of a Venice he does not recognize. Hunted down, killed. Because, well, there are certainly other Cainites, and they all, 100 years ago, they didn't like him very much. He used to say they'll accept him now. And he still needs guidance.
Next question. What are his thoughts regarding his clan?
He's absorbed everything he's been taught by his sire. His clan are the clan of kings. It's a little bit of vanity on his part, but yeah, the Cainites are created via the choice of their sires, and the Ventru are very proud, and his sire alone is very pragmatic, very forward-thinking. And if that is the legacy of Ventru, then yes, this is the clan of kings. This is the clan of pragmatists, of leaders, of shepherds. Not to say that they are, having little enough knowledge of, so far, very, kind of, coming to Bologna, very little knowledge of the Cainites of the world. No first-hand experience besides the La Sombra who tried to kill him.
Good times.
Good times. Once, I learn more about the High Clan, Low Clan type stuff, I may be able to give a more in-depth answer. But, as it is,
Well, we can go into that now. It's relevant.
Yeah. How, like, that would be part of my education once I've reached Bologna, right?
Yes. The high clans and the low. Cainite society, Cainites in general, thrive within the deferentials of station power. At its core, a given region, city, which clans are those who hold power, and which clans hold less. It can change from region to region, though there are always recurring trends. The Ventru, the La Sombra are recognized as high clans the world around. And usually the Nosferatu, a low clan. Often, a region's ruling Cainite hails from a high clan, whereas clans with a history of antagonism in a region are generally seen as low clans. It would be why it would be a very poor idea indeed to insult the Ventru in the likes of Germany, whereas one could get away with offending the followers of Set. Not to mention that a scholar's interpretation of the Book of Nod may also favor certain clans, heralding them as blessed by Cain, God, or some other force. Members of low clans typically are expected to defer to the high clan's lineage, similarly to the fashion of the peasant to the lord. This is a very brief way of explaining. So, your sire would effectively explain that the embrace is both a death and a rebirth. The fledgling is ripped from the mortal coil, and her breathing days must end. Matters of family, their race, their gender, all fade before the curse of Cain and the blood. But just like a human child arrives in the world with the inheritance of its parentage, the embrace conveys its own legacy. The vampiric child literally receives the sire's blood and takes a great deal from it. This legacy includes a propensity for certain disciplines and even the curses passed down from the antediluvian. Clan also has a social implication, just as mortal parentage does. Some clans are thought to be made of rulership, others of scholarship, others of less savory tasks. These beliefs are most obvious in the divide between the high clan and the low clan. In all society, there are always those who are destined to rule, even among the damned, especially among the damned. Some would say, as the beast drives many Cainites to dominate, to influence, in the case of some, to enslave those ones. Over the millennia, this quest for power has taken many forms. In the ancient cities of Mesopotamia and Greece, Cainites stood as nocturnal gods and demigods, pagan monsters who exacted a price in blood for their favor. In Rome, they were emperors and senators of the night, ruling in councils and holding the grandest and most depraved of orgies. If you listen to the naysays of the envious. In the frozen woods of the north, vampires lurk as spirits of war in the woods. In Eastern Europe, they are ancient masters of inbred families, both noble and villainous. One could compare it to Cainite feudalism. mind you, at this point, I'm not really going into what he's saying. Kind of explaining.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. The need for rulers and those who must be ruled in that interest to establish secure personal relationships with others. Feudal structure is an oath sworn by ruler and ruled alike that binds the two together. The ruled swears fealty to the lord or lady, providing the support of knights during times of war, bounty, times of peace. The lord swears to take good care of the vassal, not to overtax, provide them with stability and security needed to prosper. Fairly straightforward. If anything, this impetus is stronger among Canaanites. Canaanites are willful, independent creatures who distrust relations with those whom they cannot see. Therefore, oaths of fealty, sometimes backed by preternatural power, are far more trustworthy than bonds to sect or clan. Being the prince's vassal is a personal bond, one undertaken between individuals and backed by their own willful ways. It's mutual. It's flexible. Each participant must gauge his counterpart's feeling and his own with each decision. Now, high clans are the 6 major clans who are accepted and integrated into the feudal structure most strongly. Most of their identity, at least as it is expressed in Europe especially, is based in their participation in the feudal or semi-feudal power structure of Canaanite society. The typical Ventru, La Sombra, or Toreador is vassal to some prince who respects the prince's position, at least for the time being. So yes, more often than not, the High Clan consists of those who make up the ruling class.
Okay. Thinking through it, because of Facio's own, using modern terms, lower middle class upbringing, a very like the firstborn son of a very, very minor merchant. Not very, but a minor merchant. He knows that obviously a man's means are not an indicator of his ability. But going back to the point of kindred childer are chosen by their sires because of their personality, their aptitude, their competence, rather than, oh, this one is an aristocrat, I'm going to embrace him. Or anything of that sort. Or at least in his own experience. And it would also track that, other Canaanites are not going to be so much more suddenly stupid than his own sire. Or his sire. But there is also the issue of there could be multiple Canaanites who had taken interest in a potential childer, and one got to him before the others. And so a Nosferatu, say, could have been a potential Ventru. A La Sombra, a Toreador, or what have you. So those elements could be present in their character, but given that a Canaanite is his clan, for better or for worse, it would track, because that is their education, that is, one could argue, the strongest representation or reflection of their character. Or it could be argued that, yes, it's a reflection of, more so of, in the case of rival sires, their own sire's bravery, let's say. But it would be safe to assume that, yes, a K-Knight belongs to his clan, insomuch as his personality and aptitude. Not to look down on low clans, but there's a reason
that they are of the low clan.
Yes.
To explain briefly the low clans, in essence, if some must lead, others must follow.
Yeah.
At least so the theory goes. To ask most of the low-blooded, their status is not a matter of following, but a matter of being different. Overall, the low clans are those who do not participate wholly in the feudal system. Many of their members do, if only to survive, but they don't typically rise high in its structure. The typical Ravnos or Gangrel is not a prince and may not even be a vassal. This does not mean they do not seek influence or advantage, simply that they do so in other ways in other places. In feudal nomenclature, the low clans are sometimes called fallen. This appellation reflects a wide-held belief in Europe that low clans are somehow fallen from whatever grace their high-blooded betters enjoy. Often these go back to the betrayals in the Second City. But there are other stories as well. The Nosferatu and the Malkavians are almost always held up as exemplars of these theories because they are so obviously suffer from debilitating curses in the forms of twisted manes or fractured minds. Similarities to the Bruja's rage or the Cappadocian's deathly pallor are, of course, overlooked. In Europe, low clans are usually foreigners, barbarians, Gangrel who generally don't involve themselves in the same advantages or sphere of influence or places where the high clans even would be. The Azamites and the followers of Set mainly appear in Europe as ambassadors or travelers, typically. And the Tremere are not really a clan at all yet. They're a usurping bloodline that has offended the Zamisi and stolen Salubri blood, depending on your view.
You were chosen by your sire because you fit him.
Yes, this is where you belong.
Yeah.
Does Facio have plans to rise or involve himself in the grander scheme of Cainite society with any ambition?
Become a prince of a city?
No?
Definitely. I mean, he was already, he was on his way to becoming the Prince of War, the Prince of Venice.
Yeah.
As a mortal.
A merchant prince.
But now that, that's an actual possibility, at least in the nomenclature,